of UFO sightings over United Kingdom to be released for the first time. That's exciting.
But here's the thing. It's not this story.
Hmm.
It's not this story. I'm going to show you guys what the story really is, all right? It's this story.
UFO sightings in North America jumped to nearly 6,000 in 2019. Wow.
And this is from January. I mean, this is new news. And then we have this story here, which is also from just last week. The UFO sightings that pushed the UK to take flying saucers more seriously. Now, I will tell you all, I'm a skeptic, man. I don't play games, aliens come in and, whatever.
Yeah.
I will say, though, there's been a weird trend going on. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about UFOs more, and this is why this show is great, because now I can,
Nice.
is that, no, for real, I mean, we've had the Navy now releasing documents. There was one story, I don't think I have it pulled up, I should have, where they said that they're concerned about national security if they release too many of these documents. But I got to say this.
What, too many people go wild?
I don't know. They're worried that, like, the documents the Navy has on UFOs might compromise U.S. technology and security or something. Here's the thing, man. I've been asking myself, why is it that we're having an uptick in UFO sightings? We're having acknowledgement from the Navy. Now we're having acknowledgement from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, that's huge.
Why is it becoming such big news? Now, it could simply be that the more people talk about it, the more interest is drummed up, and we'll start just like a fad, where if people are interested in this stuff, it gets better clicks, it makes more money, then people are going to jump all over it. So it could be nothing. And then the more interest there's the more pressure on governments to actually release documentation. I'll tell you this, though. You know how I know aliens aren't real? Or I'm sorry, I phrased that wrong. You know how I know aliens aren't visiting Earth and interacting with the governments and there's no conspiracy?
How?
Because if it was, Donald Trump would not be able to keep his mouth shut.
You got a good point. That's true.
But it's like a typical joke. Like, you think Trump, he'd get in office and be like, "Wow, aliens are real." He would just say it.
That's what Kafifi means.
Yeah, that was the secret. What is COVF? Come
Kafifi?
observe, very friendly.
No, that's
extraterrestrials
just the
frequenting
first
Earth.
alien's name.
No.
Wow. Oh, wow, you nailed it.
Come observe very friendly extraterrestrials. What did I say?
Frequently.
Frequenting Earth.
Frequenting.
Boom.
Earth.
Boom.
Nailed
All right,
it.
so let's actually do this. I didn't even realize. Let's read. This is actually a pretty short story. So let's get some of the facts here. They say from Fox News, reported UFO sightings by the British public will be published online for the first time. The Royal Air Force ran a UFO unit for 50 years, but shut it down in 2009 after coming to the conclusion that none of the reports offered evidence of a real threat, according to The Sun. Although reports were previously provided to the country's national archives, the British publication reports that they'll be placed online following a Freedom of Information Act request by the PA news agency. A spokesman for the RAF said it had been assessed that it would be better to publish these records rather than continue sending documents to the National Archives, and so they are looking to put them on a dedicated gov.uk webpage. Members of the public will now have a chance to view information about such incidents and make their own judgments. There is now a clearance process taking place, and it's expected that they'll be published online sometime in the next 2 months. In response to the Freedom of Information request, the RAF reportedly labeled the files as comprising entirely of correspondence with members of the public. All right, that actually sounds pretty disappointing, but
Yeah.
they say given the massive public interest in the subject, I'm pleased that these files will be released and made available online. Nick Pope, who used to investigate UFO sightings for the country's Ministry of Defense, told the PA news agency. When I worked on the Ministry of Defense UFO desk, we didn't find definitive proof of extraterrestrial visitation, but there were so many bizarre and unexplained sightings that we didn't entirely rule it out.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm going to queue up the next story, but I'm going to do the very obvious, the very obvious and cliched. I think for the most part, these sightings were just military tech. And I think one thing that may be happening is that, we're seeing the US start to publish the records and acknowledge these things. We're seeing the UK do it. Probably because the technology from the 60s is no longer relevant.
Yeah.
There's no great Cold War threat. And so these governments were working on these projects in secret. Now they're probably like,
Yeah, we could just tell everyone.
Well, no, we're not going to tell everybody about the weapons we have.
No, not the weapons, but sure, the flying saucer was something we were working on.
But maybe it
failed.
wasn't a flying saucer. I don't know. Maybe it was like the experiments don't matter. The projects don't exist anymore. There's no real threat to national security if the project literally doesn't exist and technology didn't pan out.
Yeah.
What's really funny, too, about the whole UFO thing is, like, drones, like quadcopters.
Yeah.
When you could easily make a quadcopter look like a UFO and fly around.
That's true.
Nobody would care.
Well, that leads me to think it's like this, 6,000 new sightings. This is just people probably just trying to get attention. Like, oh, I
Not
saw
everybody.
something.
Yeah. Well, no,
I'm
I mean,
sure a lot of that is just people knowing that there's an increased interest in UFOs right now, or
over the past year.
Yeah, over the past year, and I want to be one of the people that saw something.
Or maybe it's like,
maybe they did see something.
No, what's that thing called where it's like you buy a VW, or you buy a Volkswagen, and then all of a sudden you see Volkswagens everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like a confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people who are like, someone tells you, oh, you know what, this reminds me of a crazy story. Let me tell you about this legend.
Go ahead. Let me hear this.
I'm gonna ruin it. I'm gonna ruin it. But it's basically like the story about how when Christopher Columbus was first sailing to the Americas and he came to the Caribbean.
Okay.
The story is that none of the Native Americans could actually see his ships. They're sailing on the horizon. They're getting closer and closer. They couldn't see them because it didn't exist in their minds. Right? Like they had no concept of what a ship was this big.
Yeah.
They had no concept of a fleet. So when they looked out in the ocean, their brains didn't even process it. And the story goes that a wise man, one of the elders, who would sit on the beach all day and study the waves in the ocean, eventually noticed the wave patterns led to these objects. And he said, hey, there's something there. And then he went and told everybody. And then once he explained what you needed to see, they could see it. You ever hear this story?
No, it's interesting though.
But here's why I believe it's true. You know why? I love doing this trick where I'll be driving in a car with my friends. And then when I see a cell tower, I'll ask them, look in that direction. What do you see? They'll say nothing. You don't see anything. They'll say no. I'll be like, there's trees, there's the ground, there's a street. Like we're on the highway. There's a tree right there. What's right there? I don't know. What are you pointing at? The sky? I'm like, you don't see anything. And they can't tell me.
You did that to me
I did
once.
that to you. I absolutely did.
But I saw it.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It was on the way to the skate park in Miami.
And you were like, where? Yeah. Like, what do you see? What do you see?
Like,
because here's the thing, right? No, I noticed this because when I started working with more live stream tech, I became very aware of all the cellular technology, the towers, the antennas, and things like that. And so it was like the first time I was looking for antennas and I was trying to figure out what they were based on their shape, because this was back in the WiMAX days. Like that was like an early 4G technology that was terrible. Got like 1 megabit. But this was, the WiMAX antennas were a different shape. Many of them were like round or bulbous. Okay. And the 3G antennas were they're like rectangles. So I look at the tower and try and see which one, would work better. And so I would ask somebody like, hey, take a look. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, what do you see any round antennas or anything? And they'd be like, I don't know what you're pointing at. And I'd look at the cell tower. What cell tower? Where? And I'm like, you literally can't see the cell tower. It's right. And so here's the thing. They disguise cell towers as trees and stuff, right? Have you ever seen these?
No.
They do it all the time. So
that's cool.
They'll paint it brown, and then on top where the antennas are, they'll paint it green. People don't see them. It's completely out of their minds. So this, back to the UFO point, when you start showing pictures to people and saying, this is what you need to look for, eventually people are going to start thinking about it, and then they're going to start noticing it. Now, I don't know if that Christopher Columbus thing is real. For all I know, that's just like an urban legend or whatever. Like apocryphal,
so all
maybe.
All this is going to come out, and then in a year or two, once the general public, starts used to the idea of seeing these things and knowing what to look for, then all of a sudden, UFOs are going to be everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you see that video? You know Casey Neistat, right? Have you seen that thing where he had the giant drone and he was like being towed on a snowboard?
Yeah.
And it lifted him up.
Yeah.
You put some fancy dressing on that, and it's a UFO, dude. It's a flying saucer.
Unidentified flying object. Yep.
No, but I mean, like, literally, you look at a flying saucer and people would see it in the sky, this gray sphere or this gray disc floating. They'd be like, what is it? It's a quadcopter, man. We had helicopters back then.
True.
How big, we had helicopters. How hard would it have been back then? We had jetpacks, and we had, there was this thing, it was a platform you stood on, and it had a high power, like dual blade in it. And it was a platform you could stand on and press a button, and it would you'd fly on it. We also had jetpacks.
What year was this?
Like this late 60s, 70s.
Never saw that.
But you know why they didn't want to do it?
Sounds dangerous.
Exactly. Helicopters were a lot safer. So the idea was like, how can we get, we want our soldiers to fly. What can we do? So we experimented with jump jets like, rocket packs,
Mm-hmm.
jet turbine stuff, and like small jets. And there was one guy who had it was a platform you stood on, had like a handlebar.
Yeah.
And they were like, it transports one person. It's really small. It's really dangerous. It's hard to secure. So it just didn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of them had a flight time of like half an hour. So then they were
worth
like,
it.
helicopters can have, machine guns mounted inside of them. It can carry multiple people. It can be secured. Let's go with the helicopter.
Yeah.
But imagine back then, in like the time of the UFOs, when they're researching. Look, we knew helicopters. Like, I don't know when the helicopter was invented. It was actually, I think it was like the 40s or something, maybe early 50s. But we have a general idea of how these propellers work. And so we had like, Chinooks, like the dual prop thing. I think that's what it is. I'm maybe getting the name wrong.
Maybe. Yeah.
So how hard would it have been for them to make a quad rotor like we have today, flying around at every park?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So
Not too difficult.
and so they would lie to the public. That's what I think. But I will tell you, I want the world to be more fun and exciting. So I'm gonna play a game with you.
Okay.
Let's jump to this story from January 8th.
Okay.
UFO sightings in North America jumped to nearly 6,000. ABC News reports there was a rise in the number of North Americans who looked up into the sky in 2019 and found something that didn't look like a bird or a plane. The National UFO Reporting Center, which tracks calls and messages from people around the U.S. and Canada about strange sightings in the sky, reported that it received 5,971 sightings in 2019, a jump from 3,395 in 2018.
Nearly doubled.
Now, is that out of sight, out of mind, like I was describing? Or is that more aliens coming to Earth?
No, it's the rise of drones.
Right. Seriously, it's probably just drones.
Everyone's getting drones. You can get a drone for like $10. It's tiny.
Oh, man, hold on. No, I'm trying to make the world more exciting for people.
I know, but
I'm trying to make.
I can't help it.
Let's read a little bit. They say Peter Davenport, who runs the independent organization that's based in Davenport, Washington, said he couldn't explain why more people called about seeing flashing white lights, fireballs, disc-shaped objects, or other oddities in 2019. He couldn't. Are you kidding me? We literally just debunked the whole thing. It's the Mavic Pro. Congratulations.
Right.
It's Casey Neistat flying around on his drone. One of the mysteries of UFOlogy is there is a fluctuation in the number of reports over the years, he told ABC News in a phone interview. Some years it's been low, but it's gotten higher recently. California led the country last year with the most number of UFO observations to the site, 485 in total, an increase of 182 sightings from 2018. Florida came in second with 385 in 2019, which was 156 more than the previous year, according to UFO Reporting Center data. Washington came in third. Yeah, we get it. They say Davenport's site takes reports from callers and online submissions, many of which are anonymous, and lists them with as much detail as possible. For example, on April 15th, a man and his girlfriend reported they saw a formation in the sky near Bakersfield, California. We witnessed 3 unidentified objects, one in the middle of being the larger escorted by the 2 smaller unidentified objects, one to the left and one to the right having no lights and no sound, and dark-colored objects heading southeast traveling at an unknown speed and disappeared into the clouds beyond sight, the report said. Davenport said he does not investigate any of the claims he collects and noted that some of the sightings may have been the same object that was seen by multiple people. Rick Feinberg, a spokesman for the American Astronomical Society, emphasized that the U in UFO stands for unidentified, and many people are unaware of astronomical goings-on in space on any given day. For instance, Jupiter and Venus were more visible to Earth last year, and they can stand out in the night sky, according to Feinberg. He also noted that SpaceX launched 180 new satellites into space last year, and those devices have lit up the night skies. If you're not keeping up with the news and not familiar with the skyline, you might mistakenly see an unidentified flying object. It may be unidentified to you, but known to others.
Bam.
Yeah. And I think the actual simple solution is people playing with drones. Now, look, when they talked about the 2 objects with no lights and the big object in the middle, it's like, come on, man. It's like a military escort or something,
Yeah, exactly.
Just a military vehicle. It's because you don't know what it is. But I get it. I mean, they're not saying aliens.
Yeah.
But here's a more fun idea.
Just because it has no sound, it's like they have stealth flight
let's
capabilities that they can fly,
right,
without anyone knowing about it.
Yeah, low sound maybe.
Yeah.
But let's have more fun.
Okay, let's do that.
Here's the more fun conspiracy crazy idea.
Okay.
What if what's actually going on is that the governments did contact aliens a long time ago. Mm-hmm. The crash in, was it Roswell?
Yeah.
Was real.
Okay.
And the aliens came down and said, yo, one of our homies crashed. And we made peace with the aliens, but they said, listen, your world is fractured. between different states and different ideologies. And if we announce ourselves, it will be chaos. It will be bedlam. Your civilization will collapse. So we cannot announce. But the time is drawing near. And if the aliens want to truly reveal themselves, they have to very slowly start appearing more and more. The news starts talking about UFOs more and more. The government start releasing documents. Not today, not tomorrow, not a year, not 2 years, maybe in 5 or 10. We've become so used to seeing and hearing about these things that eventually it's just a slow rollout where no one really cares.
To be honest, I would love that.
I know, but it's probably not
it.
true.
I wanna meet an alien in my lifetime. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but here's the thing about aliens, man. You know, we evolved in very specific ways. We live on a very specific planet.
True.
You know, we've got a certain percentage of oxygen.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's often not really talked about, and I could be wrong because I'm not a physicist, as to why. Do you know what Fermi's paradox is?
No.
It's basically it's a thought experiment as to why we haven't found aliens yet or intelligent life. Like if the universe is so big, certainly we would have found something, right? We haven't. As far as we know, Earth is the only planet. I mean, unless the governments are lying and the aliens are secretly, spinning around above us, which I really doubt.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of ideas like every civilization that becomes intelligent wipes itself out. Like humans in nuclear war.
Unless they become a type 2 civilization.
Or I think, no, type 1.
Oh, type 1.
Yeah, type 1, when they unify the planet and or I guess technically maybe you're right. I don't know at which point. Because type 1 might still die for certain reasons.
Right.
But there's like the great filter theory that life can only reach a certain point before it just wipes itself out. But one thing I don't hear talked about often enough is how we're able to harness fire. Fusion energy, essentially converting, chemical reactions to heat metals to separate lesser elements and denser, molecules and things like that.
Yeah.
So if you had a planet full of imagine there was a planet with no oxygen in the atmosphere.
Okay.
And the life there evolved to survive specifically in that environment, but they couldn't make fire. How would they create a computer? Maybe I don't know. I'm not a physicist, or a chemist.
Their computer would be probably something completely different than what we consider a computer.
Maybe we just didn't discover it.
We're used to carbon-based everything.
But that means then what we're looking for doesn't make sense. We're looking for things based on our physiology and our environment and our atmosphere. So we're like a metal ship. I don't know. What if they eventually make some kind of spaceship that's just a sphere of water they sit inside?
I can definitely imagine that. Yeah.
Or
sure.
there could be I think about
what about that that object that flew through our solar system, the Mao now?
That weird
the long pencil shaped
and they thought
cigar shaped thing.
And they thought it was like slingshotting around our sun on purpose.
Yeah.
And it was like part of like an alien.
And it looks like just a long straight rock. But
right.
I mean, it could be that's their space vessel, and they're like, if we go near that planet, they'll probably blow us up. Because they're crazy, those humans.
Maybe.
No?
Maybe we're just some dumb hillbilly backwoods planet nobody wants to interact with. You know what I mean?
That actually does seem viable also.
That would suck.
If aliens were to look at Earth right now, they would probably be like, what are these people doing?
No.
They've reached sentience, but they're destroying themselves?
Maybe.
And their planet?
How often? Hold on. How often do you?
I wouldn't blame them.
How often do you go to cows and be like, yo, cows, let me share my technology?
That's a good point.
You don't. And here's what's crazy. The difference between humans and cows, it's actually not that crazy, especially relative to other life on the planet.
That's true.
A human from an ant is way crazier than a human to a cow.
Yeah.
We're both mammals. Mm-hmm. Both species make milk. We got hair.
Yeah.
We vocalize, but we speak in different ways.
Yeah.
So imagine a completely alien species. They're not gonna be anything like we could imagine. But more importantly,
right.
If we can't even talk to our own class or whatever, like mammals, we can sort of talk to dogs. You know what I mean? Sort of talk to cats.
We like to think that we are.
But if you can't tell your dog what a street is, then how would an alien tell us what a quantum multidimensional megadrive is?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, look, you got to understand hypercalculus. It's like, why would we bother teaching a cow calculus?
Right.
It can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It can barely communicate.
Right.
That's a sad reality, man. It's like ants. I watched this in some video where they were like, an ant, like a colony of ants will build an anthill in a big network next to an interstate superhighway. and they will never know that highway is there. It's outside of their perception. They can't compute it. They can't understand it. It's entirely possible. There's aliens shooting around, past our planet, doing all crazy sorts of stuff.
Yep.
But we can't perceive the way in which they, function within our universe, because it's like ants to a highway, to a car.
Yeah, we're the ants.
Yep. So maybe they have what we would consider to be like magic powers. But they understand how to manipulate reality in ways. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could also be that, like any species that's capable of traveling, these great distances, with like taking into consideration time dilation or like, whatever, that they would be so advanced. It would be like, why would they come here and talk to cows?
Well, there is a theory that says when we lit the first atom bomb off, they arrived to make sure that they don't go into space, that we don't bring nukes into space. And I heard that we've never actually brought a nuke into space because something prevents us from doing it. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't remember where I read this, but
Conspiracy online stuff.
Some conspiracy thing I was watching, but it is interesting that Roswell happened right after, World War II.
Yeah, but they're researching weapons, man,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But what if it's true though? What if we light a nuke off in space and it rips a hole in something that we don't understand? It creates maybe a black hole. I'm speculating, but
like the force of a nuclear warhead is nothing compared to like the natural phenomenon of outer space and like universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So the first bombs were gravity bombs. We dropped them.
Yeah.
It was later on we started building the intercontinental ballistic missiles that actually, rocketry and stuff, and the ability to enter the outer space.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, man. Like, how concerned are we with like, I don't know, a bow and arrow or a spear? A little bit. You know what I mean? Like, if
someone was aiming one at me, I'd be concerned.
If you're walking around New York City and someone points a bow, an arrow at you, you'd be like, you'd get down, you'd hide, right?
Yeah.
But if we were entering like, a military excursion up against a group of people with, just spears and bows and arrows, we'd be like, this is a cakewalk, because our armor, literal like tanks.
Yeah.
Well, like you can't.
Ding.
It wouldn't even make a sound.
Yeah.
And then one artillery shell, they're all gone.
Yeah.
So now think about a species so advanced they can travel, beyond light or whatever. They're gonna be like, those nukes are cute.
Yeah.
For all, like, so there's one thing I've heard a lot from like some of these stories that come out about these former personnel who have these UFO sightings.
Yeah.
One of the things that was reported in one of the stories I was covering was that they said the aliens came here and shut off all of our nukes around the world as a show of force. To like,
when was this?
This was I can't remember which story I was reading, so I should have had it pulled up. But they were basically saying like when we started engaging in the escalation of nuclear tests, like you were saying, they remotely deactivated all of our warheads, and it was done to tell us that they're useless. Like, if they want to come here, they will, and we can't do anything about it. But I also think about like, why would they come here? And a lot of people talk about, if aliens came, they would colonize and like enslave us, and I'm like, that's not true, dude. We don't enslave ants. You know what I mean? We like just get rid of them. But it's also like, if we had a choice of, mining gold, would we go where it's infested and dangerous? Maybe it would fumigate it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's much more likely that if an alien species was looking to colonize and expand and terraform, they just go to a dead rock planet.
If they could travel, why would they come here?
Why would they?
Yeah.
It's also the potential for conflict. Even look, I mean, I think it's fair to say. Well, no, it's probably not fair. So I was going to say their technology would probably be not advanced enough to prevent an explosion.
Yeah.
Or to protect them. Maybe it is though. Maybe they can manipulate space-time to such a degree that we can't even, bullets just like disappear once they get too close. Who knows? Who knows? I have no idea.
Maybe they're fourth dimensional beings.
Maybe.